best part of this is we've got the old and the guys that haven't worn them yet, and the guys that are wearing them all in the same room. And that's what this thing's all about. For all of you who don't know yet, this is home. Okay, all you guys that are coming here, this is home. This is why you come to Illinois. This is come to be a part of what that's all about, what they're doing. And last game it was Coleman back, and you know TJ's been here all week. That's what this thing's about, man. This isn't a one-stop shop. You just come and hoop and get your degree. This is you come and hoop and you call this thing home.
Some Illini in the NBA spending all-star break in Champaign watching Illinois get back in the win column after a 20-point win over Indiana yesterday, getting healthier with a month left before the Big Ten tournament takes over the United Center. The Illini dropped to number 10 in this week's AP poll after going 1-1 last week. Michigan moves up to number 1. And joining us to talk about this year's Illini is Illini Inquirer's Jeremy Werner. Jeremy, Michigan, Illinois meet in Champaign next week. Does Illinois have a shot at taking Michigan down?
Sure they do, because they've taken down some really, really good teams this year, including Purdue at Mackey Arena, Nebraska out of Pinnacle Bank Arena. They beat a Tennessee team early that is playing really good basketball right now. And they've been tested against some of the best teams in the country, including Alabama, UConn. So they've all led up to this. But I can tell you, it's going to be a revved up State Farm Center with Merez Johnson Jr., Chicagoland native, former Illini who transferred to the rival Michigan, comes to town. That's going to be a big game. As long as Illinois takes care of business in LA, you know, that could be a Big Ten title kind of match. You know, Michigan's got Purdue on Tuesday night. If Purdue's able to beat them, if Michigan State's able to beat Michigan here late, it's going to be tough for Illinois to catch up to Michigan, which has looked like the number 1 team in the country for most of the season. And then Arizona loses a couple games and they finally get that throne. But Illinois's got a chance here, but they got to be perfect the rest of the way. And, you know, the good thing is they're healthy, or they're getting healthier. Andrei Stojakovic not back yet, could miss a couple more games with a high ankle sprain. But to get Kylin Boswell back, you saw the impact that he can have. Even if Illinois loses a little bit offensively because he's not as good of a shooter as some of the other guys, he can get to the rim. But most importantly, he gives them an extra bite defensively that they just did not have against Wisconsin. They did not have against Michigan State. And despite not having some of their best players in those games, Illinois took them to overtime and lost there. But this is a really, really good team. I think one of the best teams Brad Underwood's had.
Just looking at the game yesterday and knowing that Illinois needed a win, they were riding the 12-game win streak. They lose 2 straight games in overtime. What do you feel like the difference was following those 2 overtime losses besides the addition of Boswell?
And Boswell's part of it. They had somebody who could just chase around a guy like Lamar Wilkerson, didn't stop him, but he had 21 points, but only 14 shots. And guys like Nick Boyd, Jeremy Fears Jr. out of Joliet against Michigan State, they just weren't able to stop those guys, get in front of them, stay in front of them, and just make it a little bit more difficult for them just to get the shots up. But really what Illinois brought that they didn't against Wisconsin is they have one of the best front courts in the country. They're the biggest team in the country, and they do bring some physicality, but they did not bring it against Wisconsin. Michigan State, I thought they brought that intensity, but Michigan State kind of matched it, and that's what Michigan State is really good at. But David Mirkovic, we talk all about Keaton Waggler, who's one of the best freshmen the Big Ten has ever seen, having the best freshman season Illinois has ever seen. I think he's the Big Ten Player of the Year, an award a freshman has never won in the Big Ten. But David Mirkovic is still having one of the best seasons by an Illinois freshman ever as well. And he dominated in that game, getting these mismatches. He's able to stretch people out with his three-point shooting over 42% from 3 during Big Ten play. But then he gets a mismatch in the post, and he's able to take advantage of that. And even if you double team him, he's one of the best passers. He kind of plays like a baby Jokic out there. So the good thing is he's 6'9". He probably won't make the leap to the NBA. He's not 7-footer like a Jokic, but he plays like him, and it just makes Illinois' offense so difficult when you have Keaton Waggler, David Mirkovic, Tomislav Ivicic, who's an all-Big Ten center last year, who's really playing well here recently, Zvonimir Ivicic, who's 7'2" and can leap through the gym and block all these shots. So I thought their front court really imposed its will, something it needed to do against Wisconsin but wasn't able to.
All right, yeah, I think you mentioned a couple things that I want to build off of. One, Keaton Waggler, we're going to get into him, but first with Mirkovich, because you had a great tidbit about how he texted Brad Underwood after the loss to Wisconsin, putting it on himself, apologizing, saying, I wasn't mentally sharp. Like, what impresses you about a freshman to be able to have the wherewithal to put that all on himself and then show the growth like we saw yesterday?
Yeah, to be honest, when David Mirkovic came here, he's a really intriguing player, kind of the replacement for Morez Johnson Jr. You could argue he's a better fit for what Illinois does, even though I think Morez Johnson Jr. could be a first-round draft pick. He's one of the best defenders in the Big Ten, one of the best rebounders in the Big Ten. But his offensive skill set just matches what Illinois wants to do. But what has surprised me a little bit is his maturity. I thought he'd be an up and down player because he's a very emotional player, which can be a good thing sometimes, but you wonder if that could get away from him. It really hasn't. And Brad Underwood has really been able to challenge him, not only in practice, but publicly. David was terrible defensively in the Illinois' loss to Nebraska on December 13th, and Brad called him out. But ever since then, David has been one of the most consistent players on the team. He's gotten double-digit points for the last 9 games, 6+ rebounds for the last 9 games, and he's really improved defensively. So he turned it over a little bit against Wisconsin, which is where I'm sure he thought his biggest errors were, but he didn't play all that well. And for him to respond that way, to show that kind of maturity, I think it says that Brad Underwood's pushing the right buttons, but also he's got a guy that is locked in on winning and helping his team too as a freshman, which is what is so stands out so much about these freshmen that Illinois has. David Mirkovic, Keaton Waggler, guys who were not that highly touted. They have the right mindset because they do not play like freshmen. They play like they're upperclassmen already.
So if Mirkovic is super emotional, I feel like Wagler isn't as emotional, but Brad Underwood is kind of bringing out the emotion that he maybe wishes to see from his freshmen, because he has called out the refs now publicly so many times for missed calls. I want you to listen to what he had to say after last game about Wagler.
When he gets knocked down, it's usually legitimate knockdown. And, both the officials told me they missed the one right before the half. I was furious because I saw it. And, he gets clubbed in the head. And they came out, all of them came out and said they missed it. And I don't want it to be because other people in the league, throw their bodies into people and flop around and throw the ball up, that because he's playing the game the right way, that he doesn't get those calls.
Are you surprised that Underwood has been so vocal about the refs as of late? And is this just part of being a freshman? And Keaton Waggler, if he was more experienced, and I don't know if we'll ever see him again in a Illini uniform after this year, that he would start to draw those fouls?
Keaton Waggler does have the number 8 free throw rate in the Big Ten, so he is getting to the foul line. And even against Michigan State, where he got pummeled, he did get a couple calls, but there's been a lot that have not gone his way. And I do wonder if that was a subtle shot by Brad Underwood at Jeremy Fears Jr., a veteran who is very good at drawing some of those foul calls to get to the free throw line. And he did it against Illinois in that overtime loss. But Brad's, he kind of sees Keaton Waggler, as the kids say, as an ethical ball player. He doesn't try and sell these with his, acting or anything like that. But Keaton is a superstar. He is the Big Ten's, I think, best player this year. And that includes a Big Ten that has Braden Smith and Jeremy Fears Jr. and Price Sanford and Yaxel Lendeborg, who's going to be a top 20 pick in the NBA. Keaton Waggler's going to be drafted before all of them, and he deserves to be. And it's been amazing how consistent he has been throughout this season and how much of a burden he has had to carry offensively, especially when Kylin Boswell is out. And it doesn't faze him. You said it, Cassie. Like he is so steady and just makes the right decisions. He plays like a 22-year-old Tyrese Halliburton was just dropped into the Illinois roster. And this is a kid who was ranked number 150 in the country out of the prep standing. So a phenomenal evaluation by Illinois. And yeah, they will not get him for a second year, I can't imagine, because he's projected to go 6, 7, or 8 in this draft, which is a pretty big, great draft. So for him to do that, it's one of the great stories in college basketball.
Yeah, I think that's why everyone's so surprised. They're like, how did this kid only have 2 high major offers coming out of high school? And I think what Brad Underwood was trying to explain too is that he's putting on these incredible performances while they're playing with a 6-man rotation. Like, how much better do you think he can get when the Illini are fully healthy, hopefully, in the tournament?
Well, that's one of the biggest things we saw with Kylin Boswell coming back. Just another guy who can handle the ball. You can get Keaton Waggler into more actions, using him as a screener, using him as a cutter. Just takes a little bit of that burden off of him where he doesn't have to be going off of ball screens every play. You have another guy in Kylin Boswell who can get downhill and get to the free throw line and wear some of that burden. But also defensively, Keaton's had to guard more of the best defensive or offensive players on the other team, and now he won't have to do that as much. And Keaton's really good as a rebounder, so freeing him up a little bit as a rebounder can really, really help this team. He's just a really complete player with his length, and he's added a lot of physicality. He's a skinnier guy, but he's added significant strength since he's gotten here, kind of like Will Riley did late last year. I think he gained about 25 pounds while he was here. You're starting to see Keaton Waggler play through some people and really be able to finish at the rim. So it's been fun to watch his development. It's going to continue. He's going to be one of the stars in March, that's for sure.
All right, we've talked a lot about Kylin Boswell. I actually now want to hear from him on returning and knowing that he is playing his senior season and what this season could mean to him. Take a listen.
Just being grateful for all these opportunities, been in college for 4 years. I'm back home where I was born and raised. And, hearing my name, like I said earlier, getting called out and starting to line up here is emotional for me. But I think the biggest thing is just being in the present and enjoying this time now.
Jeremy, we talk a lot about the freshmen that are making an impact on this team, but how much of a glue guy is Boswell, especially when you're talking about a team that's one of the best offensive teams in the country, but you have questions about can their defense sustain against some other top offensive teams, and he brings that, obviously.
Yeah, David Mirkovic was sitting right next to Kylin. Later on, he said, Kylin's our most important player. That's a team that has multiple NBA guys, and Kylin Boswell could be one of those, but he's your typical senior lead guard. He doesn't have to be the lead guard, point guard on this team with Keaton Waggler there, but he does a lot of the little things that add up to winning. He just is a pest defensively. Even if he doesn't shut anybody down, he just makes it hard on them. He's a really good rebounder. He's tough and physical. And the biggest thing for this team is Brad Underwood did not have a lot of experience on last year's team. That's why it was so inconsistent. And you had to rely on the freshmen, Kasper Siakashonis and Will Riley, who were both one-and-done guys, but not as consistent as what Wagler and Mirkovic have been. But you have Kylin Boswell back. He's been there. He's done that in the NCAA tournament. Tomislav Ivicic has really turned it up of late. He's averaging about 12 points, 8 rebounds. He's been in the NCAA tournament and played really, really well. Jake Davis has emerged as a really key rotation player for Illinois, hitting all these threes, but just being in the right spot at the right times. And then Ben Humrickhouse, who came here as a sharpshooter, has really turned into a glue guy role player for his defense and rebounding. He's really become more of a complete player. His shot it a little bit better this year. So Brad Underwood wanted to have some retention. So when you have your freshmen, your new guys, even an Andre Stojakovic, who's been a new guy, going through the ups and downs of learning what a Big Ten title race, what March Madness feels, because those guys haven't been through it. They have these veterans that can be those voices, but also those calming influences when these March moments come. All
right, March moments is always something that Illini fans are like, ooh, do we trust the Illini when March comes around or do we not? So we had Brad Underwood on the show a couple weeks ago, and we asked him if this was the most talented team he's had at Illinois. And he said he thought the most talented team was the one with Ayo Dosunmu and Kofi Cockburn, but he said they had limitations. Do you think this team is the most talented and has a legit chance to cut down the nets at the end of the season?
Yeah, Brad Underwood knows his team better than anybody, but I'm going to disagree with him. I think this is his best team and most talented team and deepest team. That 2021 team was great because you had 2 All-Americans, 2 of the best college basketball players Illinois has ever had in Ayo Dosunmu and Kofi Cockburn, but you were a small team. Trent Frazier, DeMonte Williams was playing the 4 most of the time. Andre Curbelo, Adam Miller, both under 6'3", right? So Jacob Grandison had to play some 4 on that team. Georgie Bashanisvili was the backup center at about 6'8". This team is the biggest team in the country. They have the #1 offense in the country. The key for Illinois is they have so many answers offensively. They have so much talent, so much experience. They have 5 or 6 guys that should be able to play in the NBA. It's how much can they play defense? How much is their rebounding consistent? When they rebound and they just have some good quality stretches defensively, this offense is going to be able to score enough points. So I think they're one of the toughest matchups offensively in the tournament. I think any team that plays them is going to worry about how do we stop these guys because they have so many answers offensively. Even when they don't shoot well, they get a bunch of offensive rebounds, they get to the foul line, and they have Keaton Waggler who can go off at any moment, Mirkovic who can do it. But if they can improve defensively, which is why Boswell's return is so important, why Andrei Stojakovic, one of their better perimeter defenders, they get him back, then all of a sudden, maybe this becomes the 25th best defense in the country. You pair that with the best offense that we've ever seen in the Ken Pom era, which is the last 30 years, then this team has a chance to get to the Final Four.
All right, we started this segment by showing Brad Underwood in the locker room calling Champaign home because we saw all of the alums that came back. It was NBA All-Star Weekend. You're looking at Kasparis Yakachonis, Will Riley, Terrence Shannon Jr. practicing against them all week long, even Dane Danger, all still around the program. I don't know that we've seen that many guys want to come back to Champaign and be a part of what's going on there. Was that surprising to you, or is that the culture that Brad Underwood has grown there in Champaign?
It's not only a culture of winning, it's a culture of development that Illinois has helped those guys get to the NBA. It's a culture of talent, Cassie. This is starting to look like a Big Ten power. This is starting to look like a nationally elite program. And to be a nationally elite program, you have to have NBA players. There was one player between the 05-06 team and the 2021 team that was drafted. That was Myers Leonard, who didn't make the NCAA tournament in his second year at Illinois, was a lottery pick. There have been no draft picks since then. And Myers was the only one since D. Brown and James Augustine. It had been a long NBA drought for the most part for Illinois. So to have NBA players like Ayo Dosunmu succeeding at a high level for the Bulls and now the Timberwolves, and now to have 2 one-and-done draft picks for the first time in program history, to have Terrence Shannon competing at that level, it's huge for the program, and it's huge for recruiting, and they're not done. Keaton Waggler is going to be the highest drafted Illini that's been a one-and-done in history, one of the top lottery picks for them. And then Tomislav Ivicic, Kylin Boswell, Zvonimir Ivicic, all these guys have a chance to get to the NBA, and you need that type of talent. Illinois ran into UConn a couple years ago, and Brad Underwood said, we don't have the talent of a team like that. They're starting to build up the talent of a program that can make it to the Final Four.
And we all know that, I can be biased in saying this, that despite what people have to say about the Orange Crush right now, it is still one of the best college basketball atmospheres that exists. It is so fun down there at the State Farm Center. And they, of course, are on the West Coast this week, which you'll be headed to take on USC and UCLA Friday night right here on Fox Chicago. Jeremy, Werner, thank you so much for your time.
Thanks for having me.